This is why this tragic killing of Renee Good is going to be a pivot point for us in the United States and the Trump administration, not just because it's legally unique, but because there's several different factors, including the facts of this case, the victim profile, and then also the timing, the convergence of various different accumulated events. And then the pattern that I've seen. I'm JJ Legal. I'm in the dockets. I follow the lawsuits filed against the Trump administration, and those filed against the Trump administration files against others. And so over the past year or so, I've been able to study and recognize some patterns that appear. And based on those patterns, I can tell you that this one is specifically different. Now, I'm going to give you 5 reasons. First, the victim has broader sympathy. She was not the target of the enforcement activity. She did not have a weapon. She was not accused of a crime. She was not resisting arrest. Even though I know there's narratives out there that she was resisting, but she was not being arrested actively. She was not fleeing police custody necessarily. They were trying to get in her car, but we don't know if they want to detain her. And then she was actually helping people, others. So it reads like sort of like civil versus adversarial. And I do realize there's another narrative on the other side of the aisle regarding this. But that's the first reason, is the victim profile makes a difference. So that immediately collapses the usual justifications for homicide, like officer safety, the high-risk suspect, because she was not a suspect, split-second decisions. That officer had other options, but because they're poorly trained, they didn't do the de-escalation round. They immediately went for the weapon. They didn't have to. And the chaotic pursuit, this was not really a creative pursuit, and there was no criminal background that we know of this person. So the narratives they usually do to shift the blame to the person who they killed kind of like disappears a little bit. So that's the first thing, is the profile. The second thing is what I noticed, just again, like I said, being in the dock, is this fits a pattern that I've seen all the time. So this is not necessarily a one-off. And the pattern usually goes like this. The agents fire inside of a vehicle and they escalate things unnecessarily. There's a lot of post hoc justifications about that collapse. And then it comes to the evidence. They delay providing evidence, or they provide contradictory evidence, or they falsify the evidence, or they try to hide the evidence. And then in the end of it, whoever it is that they charge, if they charge a protester or a civilian or a migrant, their case gets dropped and they get exonerated. That's the pattern I'm seeing. And I can tell you this unequivocally because I'm in the dockets. Not that many people are watching this. So the 9th data point here becomes the death, which is a little bit different, though there have been a death before. And so what you're going to see and how this changes it, the death changes it, is because judges have to assess the credibility. And the accessibility of the Department of Homeland Security has been eroded every single day because of what they do, specifically what they do. So that's one thing. And then the state attorney general is going to assess the risk as to how do we go forward with this. So it's not just Minnesota, not just Minneapolis, but just this is going to be something big for all the states because now everyone's pissed off. And then the jurors are going to be assessing the reasonableness of these actions. And if you've seen the various different videos with the different angles, it's really be hard for juries to be justified. And especially a jury in Minneapolis and Minnesota, the same area where they're like ice out now, the same jury that convicted Derek Chauvin and his co-conspirators, officers, and George Floyd like 4 years ago. This is such an interesting moment that we're here. We just like commemorated or recognize the 5th anniversary, January 6th. And then we have this. So these big moments in United States history are kind of like, I don't know, coming back together and converging. And then finally, the governors are going to be assessing their political power because up to now, a lot of citizens have been saying, do something, do something, do something. And they said, we're going to, California said we're going to unmask ICE, which they did. And then other states said we're going to prosecute. Philadelphia, I think Pennsylvania, we're saying we're going to prosecute if ICE does anything. So states have been trying. The blue states have been trying. But, the citizens are like, do more. And then the third thing I think that makes this difference is the timing. This is a terrible timing for Department of Homeland Security because people are exhausted. We know the liberals, left-leaning, and Democrats are exhausted with Donald Trump, but the public patience for him, even amongst the MAGA, even amongst Republicans, are like thinning out. The immigration enforcement is like aggressive. And people kept saying, they said they're going to be criminals, the worst of the worst. People see the children, they see the innocent, they see the mothers, they see the veteran people, they see the neighbors, and they see other people that look like them, lending their privilege, lending their time, and doing what they need to do. And that's what looks like, according to reports, Renee Good was doing. Because her wife said that it's my fault. I saw a report that said, she says, my fault, I brought her down there. So it's kind of like she might not have been the type of person to do that. So for Kristi Noem to say she's a domestic terrorist, Like, you don't even know jack shit about this woman. The mother's like, she don't even do that. So how is she domestic terrorist? So coming out and protesting and trying to defend your neighbors and say, ICE, don't take my neighbors, that amounts to domestic terrorism. This is really the 1984 moment. It's kind of like, in no world, you guys don't realize you're the villain, and none of the stuff y'all say make any sense. Anyway, I digress. So courts are repeatedly rejecting their narratives because their narratives is based on nothing and nonsense and lies. But Donald Trump's ratings are down. His ratings are down so much so there are people that's saying that the reason why he is going into Venezuela and all these states is because nobody here in the United States likes him. And so the strong man like facade that he's had is eroding fast and no one's buying anymore. And he knows that. He's a people pleaser. He wants people to like him. He wants people to think he's strong. He's all about media manipulation. And he sees that he's very much aware that people don't like him that much. And he has to go find a way to be strong. And so I can use military might in the United States to be strong and feel better and feel relevant again. So he just looks like this killing looks like out of control. The officer's out of control, and Homeland Security Secretary come immediately and defend it. And she has no law enforcement background, by the way, because any law enforcement with a background would not just quickly come out and say, yeah, it was self-defense, it's defensible. Because what's happened is you're going to undermine your own credibility because that's your officer agent. You were not there. The facts aren't there. She probably haven't seen the videos, all the angles. How are you going to come out that quickly and say it was defense and defend your officer versus saying we're going to do a thorough investigation and we'll let you know? That's a responsible thing. But Donald Trump's cabinet is full of just goons who can't do just like, they don't know what the hell they're doing. And their first reaction is to blame the people. They pitch out this crazy psycho narrative that they don't realize is crazy. They have their 22% of crazy psychos in X and Truth Social and MAGA world that they, in the echo chamber, that they believe that that's the world, but they don't know there's like a little psycho chamber, not echo chamber, little psycho chamber in the corner. They just, yay. And they're just like placating these little people. The rest of us, the rest of the world, everybody else in the United States, everybody else in the world are looking at them like, y'all some crazy motherfuckers. Like, what the hell are y'all doing? So that matters. And then I think we're related to the timing is that it's just crazy. So anyway, so what's going to happen now is the supremacy clause arguments are hard to make. The judges are going to stop giving the benefit of the doubt because you see repeated misstatements, inconsistent reports, contradicting videos, and now you have a death. So it's kind of hard. And then you have the public reactions. Public reactions to Trump's things up until like yesterday, up until this last weekend, had been fear, confusion, paralysis. People's like, I don't know what to do. I'm so panicked. But this moment here, and you see it, and we've seen other moments, but this one for some reason feels differently, that people are angry. It's like they have more moral clarity. Like, I have had it up to here. I am tired. It's organized energy. People just like, I'm tired. I am exhausted of this, but I'm not too tired to fight. So people who might have been like, have given up, was like, nah, I'm not giving up. I can't give up to this. I'm not taking being killed. I'm not trying to risk my life going out there. And then finally, I think the big thing is what we've already been seeing, the eternal fractures. There's going to be supervisors are going to be like bobbing and weaving, trying to distance themselves and save themselves. There's going to be internal blame. Folks going around blaming people. The blame rain was going down. I already heard they were trying to throw Chrissy Noem under the bus anyway. I heard that what's his face, Stephen Miller didn't like her. And this might be a good way to boot her out. But I don't know. I think they might need to stay together. And then you see agents going to be saying, we're not doing risky orders no more. We're going to take it the easy route. When they see this guy, when they find him being prosecuted, they're going to be like, you know what? I'm not trying to, because the thing about it, you could be on the hook. If you see someone escalating, doing violence, and you don't stop them, remember Jared Chauvin, those other guys, those other officers saw him on that guy's neck and they didn't do something. They went to jail for not doing something. So now you at a risk, somebody else kills somebody and you're going to jail. So I think the agents are going to be looking at that was like, you know what? You might have to take it easy. And you're going to see the whistleblowers emerging. People are going to be whistleblowing left and right. Because when lethal forces creates more liability than benefit, and compliance stops. So that's why this is different. Check my next video when I say why I think this person is going to be, why I think that when they find the killer is going to be brought to justice. I already said this in a big old post on Threads.